Hey, this is Stan Grubb for WrestleRage Radio right here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for myself and SmarkRage as we discuss the professional wrestling business from WWE, TNA, and all things in between. We'll have an interview here or there. We'll see what we can do to just keep you entertained. And along the way, we're going to have to bring up some emotion and make you think. That's what we like to do. So join us here on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you at WrestleRage.
Oh, what's going on, folks? It is the American Patriot SmarkRage live in Atlanta, Georgia, for another edition of WrestleRage Radio with myself, the one and only SmarkRage, my co-host, live from, by God, West Virginia, Stan Grubb, and in Puxatawny, Alabama, on the ones and twos, Fast Eddie Layne. Guys, what in the hell is going on tonight?
It's a star-spangled edition of WrestleRage Radio. I said it last week, and I brought it to us this week. I'm so pumped up. We're going to talk to the one, the only, the Patriot. Del Wilkes is going to be joining us in just a short amount of time. Corey, I couldn't be any more excited if I was you. I really don't know what I'd do with myself.
Well, you know what? I finally let go of the book, and I gave you the book for WrestleRage.
And I hit a home run. There it goes. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. But unlike the Braves, who can't hit the ball, there's the Nationals out of the park.
Hey, the Braves are very, very young, but this is WrestleRage. This ain't Chop Nation Rage. Man, we have got the one and only, the Patriot, Del Wilkes, will be joining us in about 28 minutes. Man, I'm so excited. He is on Twitter. You can follow him on Twitter at Del Wilkes. Guys, if you got any questions, send them into the chat room. You could tweet myself, Stan Grubb, or SmarkRage or Stan Grubb, or at WrestleRageBR. Send in your questions. Hell, call in at 205-316-9900. He may take your question. I'm just cool. I was watching a match earlier today on the WWE Network with him and Flash Funk.
Funk?
Yes, Flash Funk. The original Funkasaurus. Oh, cricket. Was that nothing? Did I get nothing?
Okay, first off, you just insulted Tyrus, not Titus. And secondly, exactly.
Well, I'm excited. I didn't realize that the Patriots theme was later used at Kurt Angle's theme. I heard it play after he won the match, and I was like, wait a minute, I've heard that before.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, cool, that's pretty cool, because I just forgot about it. That's funny about being a wrestling fan for so long. I forget a lot of stuff, and then when I hear it or see it or read it or whatever, well, I can't read. When I watch videos, I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty damn cool. Dale's been tweeting with us back and forth all week. He's excited. This is a rare interview that Stan got for us,
And that's a rarity unto itself.
Right, exactly. Dale doesn't do very many of these. We're going to talk about his life and career in pro wrestling. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything from when he broke in to what he's doing now and everything in between. But while we're waiting for Dale's not ready to join us, how about, I don't know if you guys heard, Eddie, I know you've been busy this week doing the wrestling thing up in Alabama, I believe, for GCW. Did you guys hear last night in Vancouver, British Columbia, the idiot wrestling fan that tossed a full-size replica briefcase into the ring during the match and hit Roman Reigns? Stan, hit on it.
Yeah, I hit on it. I mean, coming at you fast, hard, and heavy. Apparently, Sheamus just cashed in at the wrong time. And then he got so frustrated he threw his own briefcase at Roman Reigns. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't understand what happens with wrestling fans anymore. Half the time they're clouded in the quote-unquote IWC, or the other half of the time they think that so-and-so needs a push or so-and-so should get buried. It's ridiculous. It's insulting, and the problem now continues that Roman Reigns was legitimately knocked out. At least 2 minutes spent in the corner trying to get himself back together. Thankfully they got the guy that threw the case, kicked him out, and that was the end of that. But still, it's just ridiculously, to be honest with you. I feel like Roman Reigns has really bled, sweat, and paid the price as many times as he could possibly do it. And for a fan to do that, it's just ridiculous.
Well, here's what I think. You don't go to as many wrestling shows as I do because you've got a family and just my time. I have a little bit more time than you because you got a family. Eddie's been to wrestling shows with me. If you've ever been to a wrestling show where I'm at an independent wrestling show, I get into it. I yell, I scream, boo for the heel, cheer for the face. And can get into the show, but never once have I ever thought of picking up the damn chair and throwing it in the ring. Now, I've had wrestlers come up and push me out of my chair and take the steel chair into the ring, but me as a fan to throw something in the ring, they threw this kid out, and I don't know how old this person is. I don't know if it's a full-grown man or if it's an adult. Or, an adult full-grown man. I don't know if it's a teenager. I think he should be prosecuted and never allowed to be set foot in that arena or be banned from WWE for life. Just for number one, it violates the fan wrestler trust, if there's such thing, right? Any fan wrestler, you're there to cheer, boo, hoo, holler, and hem. You buy a ticket, take the ride. That doesn't mean you can throw a friggin' a Halliburton in the middle of the ring.
That is very true. You have a situation in play where an individual crossed not only that line, the invisible line, as far as what fans should and should never do. You also had somebody who crossed the line legally. This is actually assault with intent to do bodily harm and assault with a weapon. So I think the WWE and the venue took the high road by not having this individual arrested, cuffed, and carted off.
Oh, they escorted him out of the damn building.
No, I mean arrested, cuffed, and carted off.
Oh, well, I think, I think that just kind of, like you said, that's WWE's way. Kudos to the arena security. I don't know if it was WWE's own security or if it was the contracted security in Vancouver, but those guys were literally on it. There's a video on the internet, of course, where you could see Roman in the corner, rubbing his head, and the report comes in that he was legit knocked out for 2 minutes. I forgot who the ref was. I think it was Charles Robinson. I may be mistaken. He was wrestling Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt, stalled the match until Roman got his wits about him.
Here's the ringside account that comes fresh from ProWrestling.net. Says, I was at the show last night, and it was totally awesome. Everyone in the audience was really getting into it and thoroughly enjoyed themselves. My group was sitting right next to the guy with the briefcase and his friends. They were total WWE fans. They had bought all the shirts, the belts, etc. And all throughout the night, everyone was interacting with the wrestlers, and they came through the entrance. So once the last match started, everyone was standing, and the briefcase guy was waving it in the air so everyone could see it. The crowd in that section started chanting, sign the briefcase, over and over. And then it changed to throw the briefcase, over and over and over. I think everyone just got caught up in the moment, and this guy got overly excited and threw it, hoping to get it signed at some point. But I know he had no intention of hitting anyone. I realized he shouldn't have done it, and the security guy was right there, grabbed him, then the others arrived and took him out front. The police arrived, but apparently no charges were filed. I know he and his friends are real fans because we were talking to them all night. Just a little bit too much excitement, that's all. So that's one fan's account that was in the same section as them. I mean, it's feasible to say that they got overexcited. I think it happens to the best of us. You always have those moments. But you got to be able to control yourself at these points. I mean, nobody knows really if there was any alcohol available, or maybe these guys just had too much fun. I don't know. I think charges should have been filed. I think that's a serious offense. I can't say I blame anybody for wanting to see charges filed. And to be perfectly honest with you, I kind of wish that Roman Reigns would have gotten his hands on the guy.
Well, as far as signing the briefcase, you don't ask a guy to sign the briefcase, before the match. You may go to the back of the arena before the show starts and watch them come in and call them over and get a picture. And most of the guys are very cool if you're cordial to them and they're not busy. They'll come over, they'll talk, they'll hem, they'll haw, they'll, take pictures, they'll sign autographs. But you don't expect, maybe at the end of the match.
This valuable advice by.
What's that?
I said this is valuable advice, by the way, for fans. If you truly want to get yourself to an access point where wrestlers will stop, talk to you, give you the time of day, basically, you don't catch them at ringside because they have very little time. And you certainly don't try to catch them to sign your briefcase at that point. Listen to what Corey's telling you. It's some very powerful stuff.
Well, I mean, because I've gone to shows. I love going to pro wrestling. I've gone to WWE and see those guys and, and say, hey, we've chatted on Twitter and and this and this. Oh, and the other thing, don't go to the friggin' airport at 6 o'clock in the morning with a stack full of pictures to sign. Okay? Even with one picture to sign. That's one thing I have never done in my entire life as a wrestling fan. Is number one, because I live far as Shiitake Mushroom from the Hartsfield Airport. Second of all, 6 o'clock in the morning. Who knows where those guys flew in from or drove from? And that's their personal time. If you see them out, perfect example. WrestleMania 27 was here in Atlanta. I'm getting off track a little bit, but I'll veer the train back on the thing. Went into the local coffee store, saw a bunch of the guys. They were drinking coffee and eating a muffin, and I politely said, "Hey, welcome to Atlanta. Enjoy your stay. I'll catch you at Fan Access, or I'll catch you at WrestleMania." And one of the guys stopped. Hey, come. Hey, you want to take a picture? We'll take a picture. I'm like, oh well, you guys are busy drinking your coffee. You're on your personal time. No, come take a picture. Hell, I bumped into Tyson Kidd on the street getting a coffee. I was like, oh crap, it's Tyson Kidd. Well, welcome to Atlanta. He goes, and I said, can we get a picture when you get done with your coffee? Absolutely. If you're cordial, if you're respectful, the guys will be respectful back.
You said the perfect word. You said the perfect word. Respectful.
Cordial and respectful.
Respectful.
They don't, they don't have to stop. They don't have to be nice and give you a picture. Hell, I took when my 13-year-old niece was 7 years old. Randy Orton was coming by, and it was right when he had his little girl. And Randy Orton is notoriously for not signing at live events or TV tapings unless you pay the big money to get his autograph. Understand, he's a big old star. I bought her a little kid's wrestling belt. He was walking by. I said, hey, Randy. I said, do you mind signing my little girl's belt? I know you just had a little girl. She really likes you. He signed the belt. I said, can she get a picture? He said, no pictures. I said, Randy, I respect that. Thank you for signing my kid's belt. Have a good day. He said, thank you. And he walked off. And he was just as nice as he could be. And I'm like, kind of got a grin because notoriously he just kind of no-sells everybody at the arena unless you got a cigarette. I think that's how I got him come over. I think I had a Newport. A Marlboro. I had a Newport. And I was like, dude, I'll give you a Newport. I said, do you want a Newport or do you want a
I can remember seeing photos of Randy Orton smoking, thinking to myself, what the... Because it just seems so out of place.
And this was years ago. I don't even know if he smokes. But what I'm saying is it goes back to like a guy who normally doesn't sign or stop and take pictures stopped because I was respectful. Big Show came out one time. I said, hey, Big Show, you mind coming over here and taking a picture with my little girl? He goes, I've got to go to my bus and tinkle. And we kind of all got a chuckle out of that. And he came over, and I handed him her wrestling belt. I bopped him in the head with it inadvertently. And He took pictures, he signed, and he was cool. And he said thank you, and we said thank you, and like how even Dolph Ziggler, comes when he comes over. Yeah, so it's just all about respect. Even at independent shows, just be respectful.
I'll never forget the first time I met a professional wrestler at an indie show was when I met Demolition Axe. It was at a show in Culpeper at the Culpeper Middle School. There's Demolition Axe in his full gear with big old white socks pulled all the way up to his knees, reading the Wall Street Journal. It was both, it was surreal and funny all at the same time, but nice as guys could be, and had a regular conversation with everybody that came up to him. But the coolest part of it was, if you asked him for a picture, he'd take a picture. Of course, he had his gimmick table there. He had his merchandise there, which is to be expected. But it was the coolest thing. And as I've gone through just meeting different professional wrestlers, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Tommy Dreamer, having a chance to meet these people one-on-one is super cool. But at the same time, funny story about meeting Tommy Dreamer, if you're not cool to them, they will clam up real quick. At the time in Fishersville, Virginia, the event was for a company called Awesome Wrestling Entertainment, pay-per-view I went to a couple years back. I met Tommy Dreamer, and we had been trying so hard to get Tommy Dreamer in for an interview. And, he's a busy guy. He stays busy. So I was kind of a jerk and told him that, hey, man, we'd really been trying to get you in for an interview, but I guess you were just too busy. Whatever, man. I still think you're pretty cool. And he just kind of looked at me and just kind of looked around like here I was calling him out, in front of all these people. And, I didn't really think about what I said at the time, but he clammed up for a second. He shook my hand anyway, still took the picture. He didn't have to. He could have told me to go pound sand, but I think I caught him off guard with it, and I've learned my lesson from that. You learn the hard way. Thankfully, I didn't throw a briefcase, but you learn lessons the hard way sometimes.
And that's funny because I got a Tommy Dreamer story, too. I have a friend who lives in New York. Her and her friend did a YouTube show, and they were over at one of the stores where, wrestlers, they come do an autograph signing, and all I know is that my phone rings, and I hear hello, and I say, hello, who's this? And because she goes, oh, this Tommy Dreamer's here, so she literally shoves the phone in Tommy Dreamer's hand, and I'm like, hello? He's like, hell, I can't do a Tommy and Dreamer impression. Hello, I said, who's this? This is Tommy Dreamer. And I'm like, Tommy? I said, sir, I apologize for my friend shoving that phone in your thing and making you make this phone call. And he goes, well, where are you from?
That's awesome.
Well, not shoved it in his face, but like, oh, hey, will you talk to my friend in the middle of this autograph signing, like while he was like at break or something like that. And I said, oh, this is so-and-so. Right. We've spoken on Twitter. And he goes, oh, yeah. And it was just like, don't do that. It goes back to the respect thing,
This is SmarkRage from Twitter.
Well, hey, listen.
I'm your biggest fan. Corey's that guy Corey's Kathy Bates from Misery for wrestlers.
Yeah.
Hey, out of 5 years,
fan.
Who's had the most guests, me or you?
Yeah, but whose guests mattered?
Besides Eli McFly, okay? Listen, I booked Harley.
Eli McFly is going to be on WWE Raw, and we're going to be like, dude, we could have had that guest.
No, we had him, didn't we?
No, we didn't. We never had him on.
Oh,
no, because remember the kid kept trying to book him, and we're like, no. Who's Eli McFly?
But I mean, all joking aside, be respectful. If you've ever seen me at a wrestling show and see me kind of act like a silly jerk,
and how could you not see him? I mean, let's just be real.
Well,
2 pounds of meat later.
Hashtag swollen colon. But I mean, I have legitimately have some of the best times when I sit ringside.
Legitimately, instead of having to work?
Legitimately. Okay?
You mean the time that you had was not at work?
Yes.
You so abuse these terms.
Well, are you mad that I'm inside more than you know?
Only thing you're inside is a buffet line.
Well, that is true, sir.
And I'm jealous because I'm not in one, so it's okay.
You know,
Don't feel bad, sir. I just want to be in the same line you're in.
But you know what, folks? Go to wrestling shows, have fun. Don't throw a briefcase. You know, you could talk crap to the heels, and that's what it's all about. And I'm notorious for being the loudest shit talker in the room. But
I mean stuff talker.
Nah, shiitake mushroom talker. I beg your pardon, shiitake mushroom. I apologize. This is the WWE PG version of the show.
Mushroom.
Sorry, Eddie. I think that was at like 27 minutes and 7 seconds.
26:02.
So, but I apologize. Pray to the pygmies or Allah or Buddha or whoever.
Lord, I apologize.
But it's about having fun. At the end of the day, it's having fun. And maybe the guy got carried away. Did it excuse him for doing it? Absolutely not.
Hold it. You just said pray to Allah. I'm sorry. The only Al we have around here is Al's Deli, and you really just don't want to order the Limburger cheese and stromboli pasta melt.
That's fine.
You're done.
Alrighty then.
I don't know. This is wrestle stupidity apparently. But folks, we'll be coming up with Dale Wilkes here shortly.
Who's Del Wilkes? Really?
Oh,
he's not even on the air yet. You botched his name. First time. Now Del Wilkes?
I'm going to say, hey, no. Are we sure this is the Real Patriot? Because there's a guy here in Georgia that claims to be the Patriot.
You know what? We're going to ask him about that. We're going to ask him about that because there's a lot of controversy about that. Not just for the one, Salvatore Sincere or Tom Brandi, depending on the direction you want to go, but also to the Honky Tonk Man. Interesting stuff that'll come out of that one. We'll ask him about that. We're going to ask him some questions.
Excuse me. Let me stop you there. I'm offended by the
No, you can't.
I'm offended by the term Honky Tonk Man. He is now known as the Caucasian Tonk Man. We don't want to offend our listeners.
I'll come in as a new cracker.
And everything sits on a Ritz.
In just a minute. When we take a break, we're going to be getting Mr. Wilkes on the line. We will be talking to Del Wilkes, the Patriot, in our star-spangled edition of WrestleRage Radio Masked Madness tonight. Can't wait. Definitely a bucket list moment for me. I'm looking forward to it. And one of the things we're going to talk to him about is his upcoming documentary. We're going to talk to him about his road to redemption. We're going to talk to him about his time in the GWF, which is how I remember first coming to know who the Patriot was. His time in WCW, his time in WWF, with, going against Bret Hart, which is just a milestone moment for any professional wrestler. These are the things we're going to talk to him about. Of course, if you've heard this man's name and you've seen his face, you know that he's been all over the podcast world. He's talked to Steve Austin recently. He's talked to, just about every other podcast under the sun. We finally get our chance to talk to the one, the only Del Wilkes, the Patriot. Mr. USA, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. He's been super, super busy. Glad to get him on. Got a bunch of questions.
Tons
of fun, tons of questions.
Tons of funk. No, wait, that's not it.
Nah, god dang it. You know what, Stan? I hope he hits you with the Patriot missile. Okay?
He's going to hit you with the Uncle Sam Slam.
I'm ready for it. All I'm going to do is just step out of the way when he comes off the top rope with the Patriot.
You'd be the guy that would grab your partner and throw him into the Patriot missile just so you can get out of danger. That's
Absolutely. I would definitely pull you in harm's way because that's the kind of guy I am.
Very typical. Very typical. Can't count on you to protect me. You want to get me beat up on a tag team match on a boat?
Hey!
Who has tag team matches on a boat anyway?
You want to know what?
You know what that reminds me of is WCW's old...
Bruise Cruise!
Yeah. I wonder if did they do matches on that cruise?
Yes.
Oh my God. What? You have a wrestling ring on a cruise ship.
You keep talking and I'm going to make this boat match happen between myself, Doc Gallows, and anybody else that wants to join in.
I don't think you want anything to do with the Berg. Just
maybe not. Maybe not. But
you fear the Berg.
All I know is that maybe I could talk to Del Wilkes into poking you in the eye between now and the end of the show.
Got to get through the phone first. Pretty sure that's a little difficult. Folks, we are going to go ahead and take our first break of the evening. When we come back, we're going to be talking to the one and only, the Patriot, Del Wilkes. We're going to talk to him about his time in college football. We're going to talk to him about his time in AWA, GWF, WWF, WCW, All Japan. This guy's been everywhere. He's got a lot to tell us. Can't wait to get him on the line. It's going to be a real exciting time. Stick with us right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network on WrestleRage Radio. If you're listening, you can catch us on the WrestleRage, nope, not the WrestleRage, the Beyond Ringside Radio app on Google Play and Amazon. You can also catch us on BlackBerry, Stitcher, iTunes. No, not on iTunes yet. Gosh, we're all over the place, though. It's crazy.
You know what, folks? Sit back, sit tight, and feel the Patriot rage.
Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
Hey, this is Stan Grubb for WrestleRage Radio right here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for myself and SmarkRage as we discuss the professional wrestling business from WWE, TNA, and all things in between. We'll have an interview here or there. We'll see what we can do to just keep you entertained. And along the way, we're going to have to bring up some emotion and make you think. That's what we like to do. So join us here on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you at WrestleRage. Hey everybody, welcome back to WrestleRage Radio right here on BeyondRingside.com. If you're listening live and on the air right now with us, the one, the only, the Star-Spangled Man, so to speak, Mr. USA, Mr. America. No, not that guy.
Not that guy.
We're talking about the Patriot. Del Wilkes is joining us right here on WrestleRage Radio. Mr. Wilkes, thank you so much for joining us. We are excited to have you, sir.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I'm excited about being on WrestleRage Radio. Appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely, man. You know, we have got a ton to talk about. A storied career, to say the least. You've been in. You've made your mark not just in one sport, but in two, in all kinds of ways. You've gone through the gamut, man. You've really run it through ups and downs, good times, bad. You know, we're going to talk about all points in between. First and foremost, because it's on the forefront of our minds. Anybody that knows you or follows you on Facebook and now on Twitter at Del Wilkes, one of the things that came up within the past 2 weeks, and right out of the gate, I do want to ask you. I know it's probably a dicey subject, but I do want to ask how. And we were joking about this before we came on the air. How do you feel about so many guys that just they want to kind of, I want to say, capitalize off of what you created as the Patriot? You know, they put the mask on, they put the stars and stripes on, and just like Corey was joking about earlier, everybody knows it's not really you, but still, does it bother you when some of these guys go out there and say that they bought it from you, or, you know, they're borrowing it, or even trademarked it as something I saw the other day?
Yeah, it does bother me. They say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Well, I don't need to be flattered anymore. I've suffered enough flattery throughout my life. Yeah, it does. It really does. And these guys, it's amazing to what extent they will go to. I guess when you can put a mask on and cover up your face and claim that you're somebody, it's hard to prove otherwise, unless, like Corey said, that you're 4 foot nothing, and then maybe it's pretty obvious. But there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that run around the country pretending to be me. The best known one is Tom Brandy, and I guess I'm the best thing's ever happened to Tom's career, because otherwise a mediocre career at best. At best, he had a mediocre career. I think I worked with Tom a couple of times when I was working for All Japan, working for Mr. Baba back in the early or mid-'90s. Tom came and did 1, maybe 2 tours, and he just didn't fit in with the guys on the bus, the American bus. He just could not adapt to the style of the work, so Baba never brought him back, and that's my extent of any conversation, knowing Tom Brandy, speaking to Tom Brandy. I've never sold Tom Brandy anything. I've never given him permission for anything. And this poor guy has gone as far as not only dressing up, pretending to be me, but selling pictures of me as him. Now, in my prime, you look at my body as compared to his, I guess I can't blame him. But he did a shoot interview a few years back. Again, for anybody that wanted to do a shoot interview with Tom, I'm not sure. But they did. The cover of his DVD was a picture of me. He even now has adapted and taken my bio. He claims he worked in the AWA, he worked in GWF, he worked in All Japan, he worked in WCW, he worked in WWF. In other words, he's taken Del Wilkes' career that I worked so hard for, and he's taken it on as his and claims it to be him. Now, a lot of the fans have gotten smartened up to Tom and suspicious of Tom. I've communicated with many of them over the last few months that said they saw the Patriot at a show working somewhere in Maryland or somewhere in New Jersey, and approached Tom in a suspicious manner, and even going as far as asking the question, "Hey, are you Del Wilkes or are you Tom Brandy?" And the response they get every time is, "I'm Del Wilkes." So the poor guy could not establish, I guess, what he felt was a credible enough career where he could stand on his own and be his own man, be his own character. So he's got to take on the persona of me, something that I worked hard for, sacrificed good help for, to get that character over and to have success with that character. So it's a sad state of affairs for those guys. It really is. I know me. I'm not that way. I couldn't do something like that. I couldn't be satisfied living on somebody else's laurels. I want to make my name, make my own way. But I guess, evidently, I must be one of the few that thinks that way. Maybe I'm the weirdo in the group, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, do you have any legal recourse? You say that you own the Patriot character, and now just being a wrestling fan, one would assume that Vince McMahon did. Now, who created the Patriot? Did Vince McMahon come up with it? Did he pitch it to you and say, "Hey, listen, we're going to put the mask on you. You're going to be this guy"? Who owns the trademark?
That character was developed long before I went to work with Vince. As a matter of fact, when I went to work in Global, it was me, Bill Eadie, and Joe Pedicino that came up with the idea. The three of us together, and so they own nothing of it. And also, too, I've been asked that a lot. Well, I mean, go after him legally. Well, I could spend a lot of money and get a lawyer and do that, but guys, we are talking about a guy that's working, National Guard armories and high school gyms and maybe making a couple $100 a night on it. I mean, what am I going to get out of him? Honestly,
that's a good
I'm going to
point.
spend a lot of money. I'm going to spend a lot of money to get nothing in return.
And it's a tough thing to see, because some of these guys that are using it really are trying to capitalize it and keep themselves in earning a living, and I respect that. I mean, everybody has the right to earn their own way, but just like you said, to be your own man and to have your own legacy, you came up in a time where it was very, very protective to come out there and to show up in a gimmick that got over, in a character that resonated with fans. And it wasn't just from the beginning that you had, the Patriot. You worked your way through. I mean, you were the Trooper in AWA, and now granted, my knowledge of AWA is very limited, and I learned quite a bit after the fact, after unfortunately it closed down, just about a lot of the guys that were there. But you really had to work your way into any spot that you had. So to see these guys, especially for guys like, the Honky Tonk Man, and also for Tom Brandy, the guys that supposedly came up in an old school fashion, especially for Honky Tonk Man, you would think that they would know better. And I hate to start an interview off in that regard, but it's something that we saw on social media. It's something that's been out there. I know that your wife Kathy has really been working very hard to make sure that your name is protected. And I got to tell you, I have a ton of respect for that woman right there, to be able to put that fight out there and make sure that you're protected. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I do too, and with a bulldog-like tenacity. Wayne has the trademark right to do one thing and one thing only with it, and that's to advertise with it. He wanted to run some shows overseas several years ago, and so he claims he could not get a hold of me. Well, I've been in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm 53 years old. I've been there all 53 years of my life. I'm not a hard guy to find. But he claims he couldn't find me to book me on those shows, so he was able to trademark the name to use it for promotional purposes, to put it on a poster, and that's it. And he fired off an email to Michael Elliott at Elbow Docs, the guy that's doing this documentary on me, to cease and desist. And, of course, Kathy had done her homework and was very well prepared for that, and immediately, in machine gun style, just fired back at him, and so much so she just hammered him with fact after fact after fact, with information, factual information, that he hoisted up the white flag of surrender literally in about 12 hours, and then sending me an apology, also one to Michael Elliott. And he's a bully. That's exactly what he is, and I guess he has bullied people before and gotten by with it, but when you stand up to a bully, they back down. This is the same guy you're talking about, Honky Tonk Man, that did the same thing to Roddy Piper, or attempted to do the same thing to Roddy Piper, and in some capacity, profit from the name Roddy Piper. And, of course, he was cut off at the pass there as well. So that's the kind of people you're dealing with. And when bullies are confronted the way Kathy did it last week, it's amazing how they just tuck their tail and off they go.
She did it the right way, too. I mean, she took it public. She was straightforward. She didn't get cocky or rude with it. She was just honest. She put the truth out there and let everybody decide for themselves, and that's the best way to do it. And I tell you, man, I've only come into contact with, the significant other or the spouses of professional wrestlers a limited amount of times. I could probably count it on one hand. But that was an impressive sight to see, and not to just blow smoke, but honestly, it was just impressive to see it because it was a very calculated, I don't want to say attack, but defense, and it really set a person that, in my opinion, has really lost the respect of the wrestling community because of the types of things that he's done, not just to you, but also, like you said, to Roddy Piper, may he rest in peace. All of these different people that, unfortunately, he's tried to take advantage of, and I'm glad that somebody exposed it. I've seen him do it at shows in the area. I've seen him talk trash about guys that were so willing to work with him until they came to know, unfortunately, what he did before.
Well, I appreciate a wife that is willing to go to the wall for her husband, and I'm not unlike any other guy that made a living in that business for a sustained period of time. But Kathy sees every day, up close and personal, the sacrifice I made for that business, for that character. She sees the struggles that I have walking, and the struggles I have getting up and down, and the struggles that I have dealing with the multiple surgeries and the aftermath of those surgeries, and just the difficulty and the struggle in my day-to-day life of just getting around. And I'd go back and do it again, but you pay a price. You pay a very high price for success, and try to get trying to get a character over, and then to see someone come in and try to do that, I tell you what, it just swells my heart up with pride and respect and love for her. Just to go to the wall for me like that and go to bat for me like that. But that's listen. That's why I love her. That's why I married her.
Mr. Wilkes, if I may, I heard you make the reference to a person I'm very familiar with, and that's Michael Elliott of Elbow Productions. And I've just seen where you and he are working together on Unmasked. And from that vantage point, I'm going to sit back and say I've followed Michael Elliott's production work and his style of doing things for a while now, and I will say this. You have found a person who will give you their utmost attention, care for the product, and back you 100% as far as the way that you want this to look. I've watched his stuff before. I've interviewed him on 4 different occasions. He is a tremendous individual, a great young man, and I want to sit back and say I'm looking forward to seeing what y'all put together.
Well, thank you, and you're exactly right about Michael. Michael approached me a little over a year ago through Facebook. I was totally disconnected when it comes to social media. Kathy and I have been married a little over 2.5 years, and she set me up on Facebook and things like that, and just got my name back out there. I had no clue what Facebook was until I met her, and it was through a Facebook message that Michael introduced himself to me, and said he was a big wrestling fan, a big fan of the Patriot, and he would like to meet with me and talk about doing a documentary on my career. He sent me some of the videos of some of the other documentaries that he had done at that time, and he does great work. And Michael has a full-time job working for a TV station in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Right.
These documentaries, that's a labor of love for Michael. He spends money out of his own pocket. He spends hours upon hours upon hours when he's not at work working on these things and producing these things. And he does a fantastic job, and he does it out of a love for the business.
Yes.
And it was like I heard him say not long ago, the marketing machine of the WWE, they do documentaries on a lot of their top guys and legendary characters, but there are a lot of other guys out there that need their story told. And it's a guy like Michael that takes up that torch and does it. And he does it as a labor of love, a true love for the business and a true love for the person that he's doing the documentary on. So I'm very, very thankful that Michael passed through my life. He's done a fabulous job. And just sent me a couple of other trailers just yesterday. And like everything else he has sent me, it's just, the guy needs to be doing this for a living. He's that good.
Well, if I could, I'd like to go ahead and lay this one out there for you. And I host, like I say, like they told you during the break before we went live, I produce WrestleRage Radio. I also run Beyond Ringside Sports Radio. I'd like to lay this one out there for you. And I know that Stan and Corey would love to have you come back on, especially when the documentary is ready to roll. And I'll get in touch with Michael Elliott, and I'll bring him on to Beyond Ringside product when the documentary is ready to roll. And we will do everything we can. You have our word to help you get the word out about the documentary when it's ready to roll public.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'll be glad to be back on whenever you guys want and need me.
Well, and like you said, this man does these documentaries because he loves it. That's why we do this pro wrestling show, because we're just a couple of wrestling dorks that just could sit and talk about pro wrestling, and it's cool to talk to somebody you grew up watching and just kind of get their take on what really happened. You hear things like you said, you're disconnected from social media up until your wife put you on Facebook. Never would have have this conversation with you. So thank you, Mrs. Wilkes, for getting him set up on the Twitter and the Facebook. See, so let's stand. Come on, let's get rolling. Let's talk about some more stuff, because my mind is going a zillion miles an hour. All I know is
let's talk about some of my favorite moments here, because selfishly, as a bucket list of interviews that I've always wanted to do, certainly Mr. Wilkes, you're at the top of the list for me. Huge fan. One of my favorite things was watching you in Global Wrestling Federation. Your work with just about everybody that was there. People about like Al Perez, the Dark Patriot, all of these different people. By the way, when you lost the title to the Dark Patriot, I was legitimately heartbroken as a kid. It really busted me up. You know, when did you know? When did you realize that the Patriot had really caught on? Because you had worked so hard in AWA, you did work as the Trooper, and you get to Global and they say, hey, we've got this idea. When did you know that it was really going to catch fire?
The night I walked down the aisle at the Sportatorium, the very first night anyone had ever seen that character in the red, white, and blue mask, the red, white, and blue tights, the red, white, and blue trunks. Earlier that day, Bill, Edie, myself, and Joe Pedicino sat down and talked about the idea, the concept, take you back and give you a little history lesson. And you guys may know this, but some of your listeners may not. At that time, we were involved in the Gulf War. Iraq. Saddam Hussein had taken his military, and they had occupied Kuwait. And George Herbert Walker Bush decided we were going to take our military and go into Kuwait and liberate Kuwait and do what America does, and do what America does best. And so we did that. And patriotism, in situations like that, patriotism just blows through the roof. And it was just at a fever pitch. And so we talked about the idea of a patriotic character. And wrestling has always done a good job of taking advantage of that. If you think back to the original Sheik and into the Sheik and Sergeant Slaughter, they've always done a good job of latching on to the climate, political climate in the country. And so the very first night, when I walked down the aisle at the Sportatorium, it was 150 degrees. It was hotter than blue blazes. But that building erupted. Those people went to their feet. And before the match was over, they were stomping their feet. They were clapping their hands. And they were chanting USA, USA, USA. And you knew then that, man, we're on to something good here.
Had to be an awesome feeling to work with so many different guys that really, I don't remember seeing another company like Global come out there. I mean, when you mentioned Bill Eadie, better known as the Mass Superstar or Demolition Axe. You mentioned Joe Pedicino, for my money, one of the better commentators and interviewers that I can recall. The guys that you worked with in Global, the Sportatorium, just the notoriety of it, the nostalgia of it. Was it difficult for you to transition away from there when you started going overseas more, or was it just something that was more of a natural progression for you?
No, it was a pretty much natural progression. It was a fun time. It was an exciting time to be a part of Global. It was an up and. You still there?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely.
All right. Somebody else is ringing me, and I thought it was your number. I'm sorry. It was an up-and-coming company, and we had a boatload of young talent. Myself, the Handsome Stranger, Marcus Bagwell, the Lightning Kid, Sean Waltman. We had the veterans there. You had Al Perez, and you had Eddie Gilbert, and you had Bill Eadie, and you had Stan Lane, and we brought in Cactus Jack and John Tatum, and it was just established talent coupled with young talent, and we really thought we had a chance to compete with the big two, WWF and WCW. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the deep pockets to do that. We didn't have the financial means to compete with those two, and so the company eventually folded. But before it folded, I actually had an opportunity to go to Japan and work for Giant Baba at All Japan Pro Wrestling. So when I left Global, it was still going, probably on life support, but they still had the doors open. They were still running. They were still doing TV at the Sportatorium, but I left before the end came around.
So when you were at the peak of GWF's time, what I can recall was, just like you mentioned, you had Hollywood John Tatum, you had Cactus Jack, you had all of these guys that were there. Sean Waltman, better known as the 123 Kid or the Lightning Kid or X-Pac, you name it. He's had a trillion different nicknames. And then you even had a very, very young Harlem Heat, then known as the Ebony experience. These were guys that were just blowing up, and to see Global was just such a hotbed for it. Man, I couldn't imagine a better time to be working in the business.
No, it was fun. It really was. And the idea of Global had been bannered around for a while. It had been out there for a good while. As you mentioned earlier, I worked for the AWA as the trooper, and that was at the end of that company's run as well. At one time, I think without argument, the AWA was probably one of, if not the best territory in the business when they were at their zenith and at their best. But at the point in time when I got there, it wasn't the same. A lot of their top guys were gone. Vince had come in and taken a bunch of them. And so they were barely hanging on. They were looking for something to hopefully extend the life of the company, but it didn't happen. And so that was my first opportunity of being on nationwide TV on ESPN every Monday through Friday from 4 to 5 o'clock. But after I left AWA and the doors closed to that company, we kept hearing these rumors about, hey, man, there's this company out of Atlanta. The GWF are going to make their home in Dallas, and they're going to use this auditorium as the Global Dome. And we kept hearing that there was this very rich African businessman that was going to dump millions upon millions of dollars into this company and give it a fighting chance to compete on an even keel with WWF and WCW. And that rumor went on for a long, long time. So finally the guy never developed, but there was another source of backing that came along and allowed us to get off the ground and get running. But it was extremely exciting. I mean, I was early in my career, and then to be a part of a company that was just starting was, it was just, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to be with the guys that were there.
What was the first thing you bought with your first payoff for yourself? You're on the road, you're making a little money. What'd you buy yourself? You buy yourself a Rolex or a biscuit? Buy yourself a new car? What'd you do with the first wrestling payoff you got?
Well, I'll tell you what I did, but I want to preface it by saying this. When I first started out in the business, I guess I had my first match in probably early 1987, late 86, early 97 in my hometown of Columbia. I was trained at the school that was owned and operated by the fabulous Moolah Lillian Ellison. And early on in my career, I met Wahoo. And, of course, being a guy just breaking into the business, I thought, man, this is going to be it's going to be big money from the rip, from the get-go. Well, my first year in the business, I made $6,000. Had I not had a job bouncing at a bar in Columbia, and then my wife at the time, we would also clean office buildings at night. She had a full-time job, so we were doing anything we can to help supplement our income. But that first year, I made $6,000, and I said, Wahoo told me that it would be that way. He told me it's going to take you a while to make money. But when I started making money and started making some good money, I'm not a guy that lives extravagantly. I've never owned a Rolex. I've never owned a Harley. I'm pretty conservative with my money. But the first thing I bought was a brand new Ford Explorer. I had a wife and 2 kids, and we needed something better than that old 1985 Pontiac Bonneville we had that didn't have a hubcap on it. And so I bought a Ford Explorer.
Okay.
I remember that car.
So you went overseas. You worked in All Japan. You were making a name for yourself overseas, even if people hadn't had access to Global. I mean, you were definitely making your legacy, making your name known. Now, at this point, you're in All Japan. You're working with Doug Furness and Dan Crawford. You've got Jackie Fulton as your tag partner. You're really, really shining out there. How difficult was it to transition from what a lot of people call the American style to the Japanese style, more of the hard-hitting, harder impact? Now, I know that it's not always that way. I know that it all depends on the person you're there with, but how hard was it to make that transition?
Well, when I went back as the Patriot, it wasn't that hard. The hard part for me was the very first time I went, which, if I'm not mistaken, was in the late 80s, and I went as the trooper. And I was still very inexperienced, very young in the business. And then you take that inexperience and that youthfulness, and you throw it into a 3-week tour in all Japan. And, brother, it blew me away. My head was spinning. I was convinced I didn't belong. I was convinced that somebody was going to come knock on my hotel door one morning and hand me my passport and say, "We got a taxi waiting to take you back to the airport. You need to go home." It was tough that first tour. But by the time I was working as the Patriot and they invited me back, I had matured as a worker, had gotten better, had more experience. I'd been in the ring more ring time. So at that point in time, it wasn't as hard a transition, but it was a different style. Here in the States at that time, and of course they're still doing it, and I'm not knocking it. That's just what they do. They were pushing entertainment. But Baba was pushing wrestling, and he was pushing the believability of the product inside that ring. Our TV shows consisted of no interviews. Every match had a clean finish. There were no valets. There were no managers. There were no angles. Every match, 1, 2, 3, somebody got their hand raised, and it was a clean finish. One night, you mentioned Jackie Fulton as my partner. We wrestled Doug Furnace and Danny Crockett and won the All-Asian Tag Team belts. 2 nights later, I'm wrestling Jackie in the singles match in Tokyo. So it was just about the believability of the product in the ring, and therefore I think it lent itself to a better work rate, a more intense, a more stiff, a more snug style of work. But I was cool with that too. I come from a football background, so I was okay if somebody hammered me with a forearm, as long as it wasn't done on purpose. And I was okay with the occasional slip-up. But it was just a more intense style of work.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to WrestleRage Radio. 4 minutes after the top of the hour, SmarkRage, Corey Champkin, Stan Grubb. I'm show producer Eddie Layne. We are interviewing, in my book, a legend, the Patriot, Dale Wilkes. And if I could, Mr. Wilkes, I would like to go and lay this one out there for you, and it's kind of a curveball. You brought up the factor that the Patriot made its advent during that era known as Desert Shield, Desert Storm, which was a controversial time in Washington, which led to a lot of controversy across the country, almost a divisive note. You were in the position as the Patriot in pro wrestling, but it transcended pro wrestling. The look, the attitude, the aura of the Patriot transcended wrestling. Were you ever in the least bit tempted to stand one way or the other and take a more political stance, or were you perfectly happy with the momentum that you were riding as the Patriot in pro wrestling and as a public figure?
No, I never was. Now, I'm very politically motivated. I follow politics on a daily basis. I love it. It's a big deal to me, my country and where we are politically and what direction we're heading in. So I follow it very closely. But I remember an interview Elvis Presley did one time when he was being given an award as one of the great young Americans in the United States. And a reporter asked him a question about his opinion of the Vietnam War. And he said, "Ma'am," he said, "I'm just a singer." He goes, "It doesn't matter what I think. I'm just a singer. I'm just here to entertain. Everybody's got their own opinion, and I don't need to force mine on anybody else." Now, I obviously had an opinion, had a strong opinion, but I did not feel the need to voice that opinion or to bash those that would have an opposing view of mine. This is America. We used to be able to have opposing views in this country.
No kidding.
Right now, we live in a political climate now where those that used to holler, they were very, very accepting of others' beliefs and others' lifestyles. They're no longer so accepting of that. But at one time, we did live in a country where you could have opposing views and get along and respect each other. And that was the way I approached it. I had my viewpoint. You had yours. Let's go out and put on a good show and entertain each other and entertain the people.
Corey?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here taking it all in. Just taking it in and trying to get some of this knowledge.
There is one other I'd like to ask. Go ahead. I'll wait.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and one of the things I came up in from a wrestling fan perspective of was seeing how characters were introduced. And the Patriot was introduced 1991, Desert Storm, Desert Shield. It's a very hot topic. The country, the world is watching this. It's an inspirational character for children. It's something that people were getting behind them. When you start seeing the work that you're doing really flourish and blossom into something awesome, you get to a point where you start getting your name out there, and we see you show up on WCW, which at the time, probably some of the finest wrestling that was on television at the time, but also an exciting time for introducing new characters. You get into WCW, now you're working with Marcus Bagwell again, you're around some familiar faces. Was it an exciting time for you? Did you enjoy your work there in going through the tag team championships and working back with guys you had seen before?
It was very exciting. As we were talking earlier about the style in Japan being a more stiff, snug style, it also could lend itself to doing a lot of damage to the body, and it was starting to have a negative effect on my body. So the opportunity presented itself for me to meet with Bischoff, who was in charge at WCW at the time, and we'd worked together in the AWA, so we'd known each other for several years. And I felt like that from a body standpoint, let me get back to America, work that American style, where it's not quite as physical, it's less taxing on the body. And also, too, I had a family at the time, I had small kids, and I could be closer to home. You know, if anything happened when I was working in Japan, if something would have happened to a family member, I'm at least 24 hours before I can get home. When you're working in the States, even if you're on the West Coast and something happens in South Carolina, I'm 4 or 5 hours from being home. So that also, too, was, one of the reasons I did that. But an opportunity to get back in the States and to work with guys that I knew, guys that I'd worked with at Global, some of the guys that I've worked with in the AWA, certainly, was exciting. And then teamed up with Marcus. I knew Marcus from the AWA days as a handsome stranger and great talent and a good guy, good attitude, hard worker, took care of his body. So I felt like we had a good opportunity to do something special there.
Hey, you mentioned your family, mentioned having the little kids. I know that I myself today, as a matter of fact, was watching some of your testimonials about how you gave your life to the Lord, and I think that that's awesome. How difficult was it at that time, being on the road as often as you were, and being a father and being a husband?
It's tough. It really is. I think all parents that work for a living and work hard, you make sacrifices. That's just part of it. And you have to make those sacrifices in order to provide for your family. But when you're halfway around the world, when you're gone for 30 straight days, that's a different deal there. And you miss so much that you'll never be able to get back. Things were happening with my kids who were small that, you wanted to be there when they happened, but you couldn't. You were literally halfway around the world, or you were on the West Coast, or you were in Canada or Mexico, and you miss those special moments. So it was tough, but it was what we had chosen to do as a family, and so we were able to cope with it and deal with it. And the good thing about working in Japan is I would be over there for 3 or 4 weeks at a time, but when I came home, I would have 17 days to 21 days off. So you're going from one end of the spectrum to the other. I just been away from my family for 21 to 30 days, but now I'm home and I've got 17, maybe 21 uninterrupted days with my children and my family. So that worked out good too.
Now, I'm going to ask you something. I don't want to be disrespectful, so I'm going to try to word this. Pro wrestling has been notorious in the 80s and the 90s for steroid use, and you've openly said that you have used steroids, performance-enhancing drugs. What have you seen any long-term effects of the use of anabolic steroids to yourself?
Well, not long-term effects, I guess, in the sense I have seen effects of it. My use started in college football. I played college football at the University of South Carolina from 1980 through 1984. Steroids were as big a part of football back then as were helmet, mouthpiece, and cleats. They were a big part of it. It was all over the landscape of college football. And to be competitive, you had to do such. I got my brains beat out against the University of Georgia. My sophomore year, I was a 230-pound sophomore. I was playing against a guy that was jacked up. He was 320 pounds. He was an All-American. He was an All-SEC player. And it was obvious he was on the gas. And he absolutely humiliated me. And I swore that day that I'd do whatever I needed to do. I'd take whatever he was taking to never have that happen again. And I knew that I was going to have to do that to compete. Or otherwise, I'd have a lot of Saturdays like I just had that day. And then you get into pro wrestling, and by the time I broke into the business, it was the era of the big bodies. And that's what was on top. That was what was making the biggest money. That was what selling out buildings. It was the big body. And so, therefore, again, to compete, you've got to do that. And the negative effects I've seen have manifested themselves through the injuries that I had. What happens is your muscles get so big that the tendon attaches your muscle to your bone, and the tendon cannot support that muscle because the muscle has grown through an outside source, and it's gotten so big that the tendon, and it happened to me time and time again, the tendon literally rips off the bone, and the muscle rolls up the back of your arm or the front of your arm or the back of your leg because the tendon can't support it. So that was a negative effect that they had on me. From an internal health point, no, I've seen no negative effect.
Now people think.
Hold
on one second.
Sorry, Corey.
So, sorry, Stan. People think that you just take steroids and you wake up the next morning and like you're just jacked to the gills. I'm sure you had to put just amount of time in the gym as you did as before you were taking them. Correct? Because one would assume.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's no potion that you can take, that you can swallow, that you can inject, and then you can sit on your butt and do nothing and you're going to get success. I worked my rear end off in the gym. I went into a weight room every day and I attacked the weight room. I went in with a mission. I went in with no idea of talking to anybody, socializing with anybody. I spent hours every day working out. Some days I'd work out twice a day. So no, it's more than just taking a drug and you're going to get big. You've got to work, and work I did.
All right. Well, we got a caller on the line from area code 614 here to ask a question to Del Wilkes. Caller from the 614, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Chase Merriman, and I'm actually it's Columbus area.
Where are you calling from tonight, Chase?
I'm calling from the great city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Right on. All right. Well, what's your question for Mr. Wilkes?
Well, Del, Mr. Wilkes, I'm one of your biggest fans. I've grown up with you. I think, to me, you're my all-time favorite wrestler. I've watched you for years, even when I was little, and watched you play for South Carolina and in the NFL. And, watched your career throughout wrestling. And I just want to thank you for all the years that you gave on the gridiron and in the wrestling ring. And to me, you're always going to be the greatest wrestler in my mind. When people ask me my list, you're always the top. You're pretty much my Hogan, my Bret Hart. That's what you are to me. You are, my number one. So thank you for everything, first of all.
Well, thank you, Chase, and I want to give a shout out to you. Chase and I have communicated a lot recently through Twitter, and the guy is just an unbelievable fan, a huge Patriot fan, and I appreciate everything he's done in support of our project, in support of me, and I also appreciate the shout out he gave to Connor Shaw, though, former Gamecock quarterback here in Columbia that's now a Cleveland Brown. And so Chase, I think if given a proper chance, I think Connor Shaw can put Johnny Football on the bench.
That's what we're all hoping, all the Browns fans. They just had their first scrimmage, and they said that Connor looks pretty good. He's still up third on the depth charts, but their first preseason game's Thursday, so they said he'll get a lot of looks. So I'm hoping, because I was a huge fan of his in college. But the question I've always wanted to ask, and the thing too is, when you went overseas to wrestle with the Patriot, like in England and Japan, were you well received, or was it one of those, it was a mix, or were you one like, okay, you're the Patriot, you're from the States, here's what to possibly expect? And, I remember fondly the one night only pay-per-view with Flash Funk, and I remember all the announcers were like, this is rare, Was it for you a little bit different, or was it something that you knew going in that possibly because of the American gimmick that you might get, possible boos, and was it something you were okay with, or was it something that you were disappointed with?
No, I was okay with it, and when you look at it in context of what was going on at the time, we were in the UK, we were actually in Birmingham, England. I wrestled Flash Funk that night. But the main event was the British Bulldog against Shawn Michaels, if I'm not mistaken. I know it was a British Bulldog against somebody, and I'm pretty sure it was Shawn. So the Bulldog was over like $1 million. And at the time, I was involved with that angle with the Hart Foundation. And the Bulldog was a part of the Hart Foundation, along with Owen Hart, Bret Hart, Jim Neidhart, and Brian Pillman. So when you look at it, in its entirety, it makes sense that they booed me, because the Bulldog was back home. He was main event. He had been involved in that angle with me and Bret. So naturally, he was going to be cheered and I was going to be booed. And we found it to be rather funny that night after the show. Me and Flash and Jerry Briscoe, who was one of the agents, we had a good laugh with the fact that was the first time since I'd been in the WWF and I'd been booed. Now, later on, we went into Canada and worked a ton of shows across Canada with me and Bret working together, and I got booed there as well. And one night, had 6 different people on 6 different occasions try to get in the ring and come after me, because we were in Canada and their love for Bret Hart. So those were things that were new to me, being booed and having people come in the ring after me, but it made it fun. It livened up the process, and it made it fun.
Excellent. And then I just really have one more question. I'll let the guys, I'm sure they have a lot too, and I don't want to take up too much time. The other question I've always wondered too was, I know in the past you've mentioned this, you wish you would have wrestled Stone Cold or worked with him in WWF. In your time with WCW and the time with WWF, do you feel that, you should have got maybe more of a shot with, of course you got a title shot with Bret in 97, but with WCW, were you hoping for more of maybe a singles push for, a U.S. title or even the heavyweight title, or is it one of those that when they brought you into WCW, they worked with Marcus Bagwell and they said, okay, well, here's your tag thing and we'll see what happens? And was Vince a little bit different when you came to WWF? Were you like, I really want, a singles push? Is there any way that you can, put me in with certain wrestlers, or was there certain game plans and things like that in place when you went to the 2 big promotions in the States?
Well, when I went into WCW, I went in as a singles wrestler. And things were a little different then. At the time, they were really, really knee-deep in great tag team talent. And they felt like putting Bagwell and I together, would add to the excitement of tag team wrestling. And between Bagwell and I and Harlem Heat and Pretty Wonderful, we could, and the Nasty Boys, we could rotate the belts around, and it would give the fans something, to latch on to. And then Hogan and his crew came in, and the focus of the company entirely changed. It was no longer about the guys that were there before Hogan, Savage, and Beefcake, but now it was about Hogan, Savage, Beefcake, and their friends. So things changed drastically there. Now, I went into the WWE after meeting with Vince before I signed my 3-year deal, and it was all about singles wrestling, and it was all about being one of the top guys in the company. And I think the fact that I went right into that program with Bret who had the belt at the time. I mean, I went right into main event matches on the road with Brett, working with Brett. The unfortunate part there was my body failed me. It wasn't any lack of interest in the character or any lack of, good work or good matches. We had good matches everywhere we went. What played a role there was my body just literally gave out on me. I could no longer physically go. I had blown my knee out in Japan. I had ripped my tricep off the bone when I was over in Japan. So I was dealing with injuries. When I got to WWF, I really, really knew that I was on borrowed time. And I really did not think I could live out the terms of that 3-year deal. And I went as long as I could. And at that point in time, it was over. I physically could not continue to go.
Well, to me, that was, the best year of wrestling was when you were in WWE. That was my favorite time. And, one of my favorite matches was the Battle Royal that you won, the 20-man Battle Royal. So, that 1 year, the 97 year, to me is always my favorite. And it's still my favorite year of wrestling, WCW, WWF. That was one of those when you came back into watching it, and just the chance to see you wrestle is still one of the greatest memories of my life. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart as my 30-something-year-old self. You changed my life, and your testimonial has really helped me out. And it's something that, what you've overcome in your life through, all your struggles. It's been, an amazing journey to read and learn about your story and to your fans. And so it's helped me out, because if my hero can overcome something, it's always that I can overcome even the littlest of obstacles. So to me, God bless you, sir, and thank you so much for everything. And thank you guys for letting me get to talk to my hero. So to me, that means the most thing in the world besides the birth of my children.
Chase,
so
thank you very
much.
Chase, thank you very much for calling in and getting to talk to your favorite pro wrestler. Dale, thank you for taking the phone call. Stan, where are we at, buddy? Man, this hour, we're at an hour so far. This is some great stuff.
Before we close this out, and we will do that in a few moments here, I want to talk about, well, of course, the documentary, but the documentary that is really telling the story of the Patriot, telling the story of Del Wilkes. And again, thank you so much, Chase, for calling in. Mr. Wilkes, when you went through these times, so you went to WWF, you were wrestling Bret Hart, as you stated, you were at the top of the card. You were really not just making a name for yourself anymore, you were really cementing your legacy. But at the time, your body, unfortunately, was not cooperating with you. It's now become a situation where your tricep has been torn. Your legs are giving you issues. You're fighting your way through it. I learned after the fact, of course, as many fans did, that you were fighting multiple injuries at once, coming back sooner than you should have, and really doing what most performers at that time, most professional wrestlers at that time were expected to do. And that was coming back, playing hurt, doing what you had to do for the company, but also doing what you had to do for yourself and to provide. You have described many times, and you took a path shortly after your release from WWF that really put you, for lack of a better word, in harm's way. You were basically in a position where you were dealing with injuries, you were dealing with a lot of pain, both mentally and physically, I would imagine, and you got in some trouble along the way. I've watched your testimonial, much like Chase. It's inspiring for me to hear the awesome grace that God can give to us in fighting back from the depths of just the worst thing ever to being able to find some redemption. Tell our listeners, tell our fans, if you don't mind, a little bit about your struggle with painkillers, but also how you were finally able to come back to Christ, but also get your life in order, your house in order.
Well, I want to go back and again, like you guys did, thank Chase for the phone call and for the kind words. That means an awful lot. That's why we get into business, and wrestling fans, they're the greatest. There's no other fan base like wrestling fans, so I appreciate that, Chase. Yeah, and trying to continue to work through injury, which so many of the guys that I worked with at the time and guys that came before me and came after me have done. You're in an occupation where you dreamed of it. I dreamed of this as a kid, as a 6 and 7 year old kid. I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and I'd buy the magazines and I'd look through them in just amazement. And I'm living my dream. And not only that, I'm doing it at a very high level. Having great success, traveling the world, making large amounts of money, and I also have an obligation to the people that's paying me that kind of money to continue to go out and perform. And so you do what you feel you have to do. You make the pain go away. You're trying to avoid coming off the road, having surgery. You know what surgery can mean. It means time off. Time off means out of sight. Out of sight means out of mind. And you lose your steam, you lose your spot, somebody else comes along, and the next thing you know, you're just a memory. And it could be that way. So we all, I think, operate out of fear. That fear of being irrelevant in that business, especially for something you've worked so hard for. So I started taking the pain medication in an innocent fashion to get me through a match. Kurt Hennig gave me a few one night before a match and said, "Here, try these. You'll be amazed at what they'll do." I tried them, and he was exactly right. The injury didn't go away, but I went out and worked pain-free. I had no limitations. So I continued to take them, and the injuries continued to mount, and the severity of the injuries got worse, but I continued to take these pills. Now, I'm up to the point where my career is now over because I can no longer physically work. I'm addicted. Even though the career is over, the addiction is in full blast. I mean, it is in Mach speed overdrive. And I have to have these pills now not only to deal with the injury, but just to function. They're very, very physically addictive, painkillers are. And if you try to cold turkey off of them, you get violently sick. It's dope sick. It's no different than coming off heroin. It's the exact same thing you're dealing with. And I tried that, and it was intimidating. Probably the only thing that's ever intimidated me in my life is having to face that kind of sickness. So instead of facing it, I just keep taking the pills. The doctors cut me off, so I got a doctor to write me a prescription, and on that prescription it has his name and his DEA number, which is the number that identifies him to a pharmacist. And I'd been around a doctor that called a lot of prescriptions in for the boys. The boys, he was very popular with the boys, and I'd been in his office and heard him call hundreds of prescriptions in. So I knew what to do. I knew what to say. I knew the terminology. I knew how to do it. So one day I worked up the guts to call my own prescription in, and it worked. Now, that's a felony. You go to jail for stuff like that. But it worked hundreds and hundreds of times. But then I started getting caught, started getting arrested. And eventually I was arrested, I think, close to 30 times, 28 to 30 times for prescription forgery. And eventually it cost me everything, my family and finances, and eventually my freedom. I was sentenced to 18 months in the South Carolina Department of Corrections. I did almost 11 of those 18 months. But it was there in prison where, upon getting clean and getting sober, that I had a clear enough mind to realize the mess I'd made of my life. And I had messed it up. I couldn't fix it, but I sure did a good job of messing it up. And I'd given my life to the Lord when I was an 11-year-old boy, and I'd just gotten away from it. And I'd just grown so far apart from the Lord. But it was there in a prison cell where I said, you know what? I've messed this thing up. I'm incapable of fixing it. And there's an old Southern gospel song that says, "Where could I go but to the Lord?" That was the only place I had to go, guys. That was the only place I had to go. And it was there that I rededicated my life to Him and renewed my strength and my salvation through Him. And I got out of prison on Valentine's Day, 2003, and I've never been arrested since. I'm a different man. That old guy stayed in prison, and the new guy walked out. But it was only through Him that I was able to do that, and through the prayers of family members and loved ones and friends and church members that was made possible. I messed it up. I couldn't straighten it out, but He did.
Did at any time did you reach out to anybody at WWE asking for help? I know that WWE now has a policy, any former talent with a substance abuse problem, alcohol abuse problem, that they'll send them to rehab. Did you reach out to anybody and ask for help, or were you just so far along the wayside that you didn't ask?
Well, at the time, I wasn't aware that the WWE had that policy. I wasn't made aware of that until just maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But I did go through 4 different rehabs, and 3 of them were court-ordered after being arrested for forging prescriptions. But I was so out of control that those rehabs did me no good. I got to rehab, and within 4 to 8 hours of getting out, I was copping pills again.
Well, you know, and I'm a bail bondsman in real life. Been doing that for 20 years, so I know that side of the court-ordered, part of rehab. And it seems like you weren't ready to get clean. Just in the years of dealing with this, if a person's court-ordered and you force them to do it, it's not going to. They'll do it. But I'll do it so you don't put me in prison.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
It seems like you just weren't ready to get clean.
No, I wasn't. And, I've been asked the question many times, well, when did you hit rock bottom? When did you hit rock bottom? I mean, losing your family, was that rock bottom? No, it wasn't. I kept going. And it was losing my freedom that allowed me to sit in a prison long enough where I could get clean. And I could get sober, and I could get back to my right mind of thinking. When you're addicted and you're in the midst of an addiction like that, you don't think right. I mean, you're out committing the law, for goodness sake, so you don't think properly. But the opportunity to get clear-headed and think and realize what a mess I had made and realize there was only one option for me, that was what did it for me.
Let me ask you something, because I heard this statistic, and you clarified it when you spoke with Steve Austin, but it blew my mind. How many pills were you taking at one point?
Well, I was taking 120 pain pills a day. I would take 15 to 20 at a time, and I would chew them up. I would chew them up and get them as close to powder form as I could, where they would hit me quicker. Now, that was just the pain pills. Pain pills, with most people, when you get a prescription of pain pills, it says on the bottle may cause drowsiness. Well, in most people, it doesn't. It's the exact opposite, especially if you've taken them, through extended usage. It gives you energy. I mean, it gives you a charge like you won't imagine or can't imagine. So you're hyped up, you're jacked up, you can work, you can do things around the house. And then come nighttime, you can't sleep because you've taken 120 that day. So now you got to take something to sleep. So I was taking Somas, Valium, Halcyon, Xanax, all together with the pain pills and the other pills. I was approaching 200 pills a day.
I'm just kind of like, I'm speechless just knowing like 200 pills a day. I mean, that's enough, to kill a damn normal person, 20 or 30 of them. And you were doing this, like every single day. And I'm assuming you were chasing it with an alcoholic beverage, and you were just like, wow, just wow.
I was out of control. And when you take those things at night, those gimmicks at night to make you sleep, you've taken so many pain pills during the course of the day, and I never slept good anyway, that it takes enormous amounts of those things to get you to go to sleep. I'd built up a tolerance for those just as I had the pain pills. So I've had nights where I've taken up to 30 Somas. I've had nights where I've taken up to 8 Xanax, the 6. Now, by the time you put all that in your body and you finally do pass out, well, when you do wake up a few hours later, brother, you're in a fog. I mean, you just can't hardly walk. You can't get your head, cleared. So what do you do to overcome that, you grab 20 pain pills, you chew them up, and you swallow them. So the cycle starts all over again. And you're a dog chasing your own tail.
Let me ask you, because now you're clean and sober. You are, as you stated, and as many people have identified, you are a changed man, and you have really put yourself into a position where, by all intents and purposes, you have left that life behind you, and, first and foremost, that's just an awesome feat in and of itself. How do you cope with the everyday aches and pains? Is it pain management? Are you able to do just Motrin or ibuprofen? Yes, you want to try to stay away from any of the old habits if you can, but just going through life as you have, college football, professional wrestling, stateside, overseas, just years and years and years of pounding your body, how do you manage to cope now after going through all of this and now also getting clean and sober?
Well, it's a struggle. It's not a struggle from a standpoint of wanting to go use. It's a struggle from a physical standpoint. I do. I struggle tremendously getting around. Standing up, sitting down, getting in our cars, getting up from the table, a chair, a couch, being able to walk, going up steps, having help getting down steps. So it's tough. And not only that, but other body parts. My elbows, I just had my right wrist totally fused about a year ago, and dealing with the ongoing pain of that. So it's a struggle daily. But I do have ibuprofen. I do have anti-inflammatories that the doctors have prescribed me, and I do get a series of injections into my joints that can help somewhat. Sometimes they help better than others. Sometimes they last longer than others. But through those things, ice bags have become very important. So you just do what you can to cope and get through the day.
One of the popular programs that a lot of guys in and out of the industry now talk about is DDP yoga. Have you given any work to that? Have you ever put any effort to that?
No, I haven't, and maybe it's something I should consider, but I'll tell you why I haven't. I had my right knee totally replaced July of 2012,
oh, wow.
and things were good. And I got where I was walking a lot. My wife and I were walking 30, 40 miles a week. And one day while out walking, and I'm not talking about running, lightly jogging, we're just walking. And one day I felt a real loud pop in the knee I just recently had replaced. I literally went to the ground. It hurt so bad. And it hurt like that for about 30 seconds, and it went away, and I didn't think anything of it. But when I got back home and I got ready to take a shower, I could see that there was something sticking up underneath my skin at my kneecap. It was almost like a knuckle sticking up, had the skin protruding. So I made an appointment and went to the doctor, and what had happened was I had broke the prosthetic knee. So the artificial knee that was put in to make my life better literally broke on me. And so I had to have it replaced. And that has not been met with a lot of success, and a lot more pain and discomfort than I was in before I had the knee replaced the second time. So I'm a little concerned about doing anything like that. Maybe that's what I need to do, but at the time I don't.
As a John Q. Public and everyday guy, I can tell you that I've done it. It is low impact on the joints, like the advertisement says. I'm certainly no poster boy for it, but at the same time, I can tell you if you're looking for something that's a little less intrusive on your body, I've heard nothing but good things about it. And from my personal standpoint, I can tell you that it's legit as far as the work. It definitely puts your body through it, but it is definitely low impact to the joint, so maybe it's of benefit. Before we start to wrap this up and really take it home, as they say, or as some say, what?
I think the term is "go home, sir."
Okay, see, I never said that I knew it very well.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm wearing the wrestling mask. I'm an insider more than you know.
Okay, now that's where I jump in because Corey, we're gonna go ahead and pull back the curtain and tell the truth. You're really not wearing a wrestling mask. You're doing the Murray Langston, the unknown radio host or unknown comic bit. You got a paper bag on your head.
It's got an American flag on it, though.
Well, you and magic markers work wonderfully well as long as you're not trying to use them with batteries included.
I mean, listen, they're non-toxic, so I don't eat them. If I eat them, I don't get hurt.
That's right. You just go ahead and put ketchup, mustard, and mayo on them.
So,
Mr. Wilkes, hold on, wait.
I mean, do you do a lot of speaking engagements? I did watch you've done speaking engagements at churches and stuff. I know that you have gone to a number of wrestling conventions. What are some of the things that you do now that really keeps you busy? I know that you work, which is great, but at the same time, keeping your name out there. You know, your wife got you involved with social media. That had to have been just kind of a mind-blowing thing to not be connected to it, and the next thing you know, it's like opening a floodgate.
Yeah, it is, and I'm glad that I've gotten my name back out there, and I'm doing a lot more things now. Last weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, we did, no, it was last weekend, we did Fan Fest up in Charlotte, and very successful, had a great time. And I do a lot of things like that, a lot of appearances, some not that big, some not that grand of a scale. Do a lot of things throughout the state here. Also have quite a few opportunities to share my testimony. Was able to do that last night with a youth group at a church here in my area, about 50 or 60 teenagers. And it was a real special night. And so I get a lot of opportunity to do those things like that, coupled with my job. And then I'm also a parent. And I've got an 18-year-old son that's getting ready to go into the military. I've got a soon-to-be 20-year-old daughter that is a newlywed. And we just found out a few weeks ago that she's going to give me my first grandchild. So
hey,
got a lot going on in life.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We're very excited about it. And so there's a lot going on. Life's good, and we're having a great time while doing it.
Well, I tell you what, it's fabulous to hear that everything has come together for you the way it should, and you've definitely been leading a life instead of letting it lead you. Whereas I think a lot of us fall into that trap. You know, you've made some real powerful statements as far as some things you've combated, some things you've fallen to and gotten back up from. I think Scott Hall said it pretty well when he said it's not how many times you get knocked down, but it's about how many times you get back up. And if anybody has proven that theory, I would have to say that it's you. Your documentary is still in the process of being finished up. Where are we in this final stages for the documentary?
Well, we're getting pretty close. I'm in contact with Michael several times a week, and based on our last conversation, we're probably about 4 to 6 weeks from releasing the documentary and having everything done. And I think the fans will enjoy it. We're very fortunate that on our Kickstarter campaign, our goal was $3,500, and we came within, I think, $7,500 of raising $6,000. So I want to say thank you to everyone that donated. We're going to be getting all their gifts and prizes out here this week because with every donation there was prizes that were attached to that. We've got some great people that also agreed to be a part of this documentary, and I'll give you a few. They come from football. This thing's about my life. It's not just wrestling. It's football. It's life. Of course, you'll see my mother in there. You'll see one of my sons, my youngest son. You'll also see one of my teammates at the University of South Carolina, a guy by the name of George Rogers that won a Heisman Trophy in 1980. You're going to see Stan Hansen, Buff Bagwell, Jackie Fulton, Bobby Fulton, George South, Bill Apter, Greg Gagne, Bruce Pritchard. So we've got just a who's who of people that agreed to take part in this documentary, and we're excited about the release of it. Like I said, it should be within 4 to 6 weeks. It's going to be a 3-disc set, and I think there's a great story there. a guy that had a lot of success, that had some extreme failures as well. But through it all, it's a story of redemption and God's grace and mercy, and a guy that through that grace and mercy was able to come out the other side and still enjoy life today.
That is fantastic. I know I'm excited for it to come out. What about you, Stanley?
Oh, I'm pumped, man! When it is out and available, you can guarantee, bet your bottom dollar, however you'd like to say it, that I will have a copy in my hands. And you know what, Mr. Wilkes, just like Eddie said earlier, when we get to to release time, of course, the invitation is open to you. We would love to have you back and help to promote any way we can. Even if we can help to host and sell copies for you, I'd be willing to do that. I tell you what, when you see a story as powerful as what you have gone through firsthand in your life, ups, downs, successes, struggles, and redemption, as you've put it, it's worth getting it out to the public. It's worth telling the story and seeing it come to fruition. I got to tell you, as just a man, seeing another man go through what you've gone through, I'm proud of you as another Christian, just to see somebody take the steps that you've taken. And you were an inspirational person to me as a Christian, but also as a fan. When I was 11 years old, watching you wrestle every day after work or after school with my older brothers, and I tell you, there's nothing more powerful than, they used to say meeting your heroes is a bad thing, and I completely disagree, because just like Chase said earlier, you are definitely one of my heroes, and I respect the hell out of you, sir. I really do, for everything you've done, but not just in professional wrestling and football, but just as a man in general, to be able to step up and let your legacy speak for itself as you've really fought your way from the bottom back up. And man, it's a powerful story, and I'm just glad to be a part of the interview here.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Appreciate those kind words, and I appreciate you guys having me on the show tonight and giving me the platform and the opportunity to not only talk about the documentary, but talk about my career and where I'm at today in life. So very, very thankful.
We have not even really scratched the surface, because we know that there is a lot more there. That's why we definitely want to have you come back on very soon.
Well, I'd love to do so, and just let me know when you'd like to make that happen, and we'll make it happen.
You know, that's funny that you should ask that. Maybe we'll have you back in a few weeks. So what date do we have open, Stanley?
Let's take a look here. Going back through our schedule here. Eddie, is that date right, the 30th?
Ding, 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 ding.
All right. So, Mr. Wilkes, if you've got the availability on the 30th of August, we'd love to have you back at that time.
All right. I'm pretty certain I do. Let me check my calendar, which I have at my office at work, but I'll get back with you and let you know. But I'm pretty certain I do have it open.
Great. Well, we look forward to talking to you then. And if we have to set it up for a different time, just like I told you earlier this week, that's totally fine with us. You've got my contact information. If you don't, I'll send it over to you again by email. It's not a problem. But Mr. Wilkes, definitely thank you so much. Folks, you can find Del Wilkes on Twitter at Del Wilkes. That's DELWILKES. You've got Del Wilkes is on Facebook. You've got a Del Wilkes the Patriot fan page. If you can't find this man on social media now, you're doing it wrong. I'm telling you.
and you know what? And thank you for sitting here and spending all this time with us. I got to tell you this. Usually I'm the loud one. I'm the most vocal. I like to start trouble because this is my playground. So I start trouble. But sitting here talking to a guy I grew up watching is pretty cool, and you're one of the few people that on this show that has left me speechless.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And we thank you for your time and for your candor.
Well, glad to do it. I think it has to be that way. It can be told only that way. It can't be told any other way.
Amen to that. Folks, we're going to take a quick pause for the cause here and just do a quick reset. When we come back, we'll close out the show and send us on our way. Send us packing, so to speak. So stick with us. We'll be right back here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, right here on WrestleRage Radio with myself, SmarkRage, and Fast Eddie Layne. Thanks again to Del Wilkes for joining us. We'll be right back, folks.
Corey, say the phrase.
Jeez, Corey.
Feel the rage. I had that microphone on mute.
God, you are slipping in my old age.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is SmarkRage from WrestleRage Radio, coming to you from the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Join myself and my co-host, Super Stan Grubb, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern as we present WrestleRage Radio, where we rant and rave on everything in the world of pro wrestling. Sometimes we'll have a guest. Sometimes it'll be just me and Stan BSing about the sport that we love, pro wrestling. Check us out. Tune in Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, only on the Beyond Ringside Network.
Howdy, friends. This is the Magic City Motormouth, Fast Eddie Layne, with your invitation to join yours truly, along with Mark Mabo Bowman and the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, every Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, for Beyond Ringside Live. Wrestling, mixed martial arts, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Keep your eyes open on BeyondRingside.com for all of upcoming show information, and of course, catch us on social media as well. Until then, we'll see you this Sunday, 6:30 Eastern, for Beyond Ringside Live on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
The To Be Determined show live Wednesday nights, 9 Central Standard Time. Join myself, the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, the Grand Design, Clyde Braddock, and the Magic City Motormouth, Fast Eddie Layne, as we take you to the edge of uncensored. Yes, we go uncensored, so make sure you have your earmuffs. Ask your parents, for those of you that are a little young, maybe under 18, but make sure if you have any heart conditions or any mental defects, please listen, because they may take effect right here live every Wednesday night, 9 Central Standard Time. Beyond Ringside Radio Network, BeyondRingside.com.
WrestleRage Radio. Well, Stan and I are fighting behind the scenes. Typical, you know, Stan. I do got to give it to you, son. You did a good job. I know you've been wanting to get Mr. Wilkes on the show for as long as we've done the show, and had no means to contact him.
Let me give you a little bit of backstory. I've been trying to get in touch with Mr. Wilkes for about 2 months. In the middle of my life, just going to pot and seeing everything that I thought was solid.
I didn't know you did drugs.
I did, yeah, all of them. But no, seriously, but just seeing everything fall apart. I get his contact information from his wife, Kathy, who's just an awesome lady. And I never had a chance to call. I kept trying, could never really find the time. Finally get a chance to give him a call, and then the first number that she gave me was transposed. One of the numbers was transposed, and it came back disconnected. So I called Corey. I was like, "Oh my God, I think we've been had, and I'm not sure what to do." And so I shoot her a message, and man, as soon as I did, she sends back, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She gives me the right number. So yesterday, Friday afternoon rather, I'm out there and I'm with my kids hanging out in the driveway, and I say, "Wow, I've got a chance here. Let me call him," just as a whim. Sure enough, he answers the phone. Talk to him for a few minutes. My kids are in the background. They're playing "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," and I'm talking to him. I'm like, "Yeah, that's my kids in the background." And just super patient guy. I mean, I think I got him actually at work. So, I mean, even more reason to love this guy. Takes the time from his work day to answer some unknown schlub's phone call to say, yeah, I'll do an interview. You know what? I'm legit on cloud nine. Definite bucket list moment. I don't know that it gets any better than that.
Absolutely. You know, it's like we've said time and time again from the first time we've started this show to our last dying breath, to our last fight, till we quit and start again and reboot until we had this crazy, stupid idea to, hey, let's do a wrestling internet radio show. We're just a couple of guys that love pro wrestling. We thank you guys, for being on this crazy ride. That's pro wrestling, and we do it, like I said, because we love it, because it's fun. We've got to interview some amazing people. We have had some not so amazing people call in, but all in all, it's fun. What? Listen, I'm a rotten son of a bitch. I apologize. Okay.
At least he made it through the interview.
Okay, I'm a rotten son of a bitch sometimes. But
No,
sorry,
actually, I'll let that one go. Believe it or not, that one's not on the agenda list for kills.
Okay, good. I had it marked like 1 hour 30 minutes, about 53 seconds.
No, I already have you at 26:02 for something for a fecal reference.
But it's fun talking to guys you grew up watching and talking and interacting, and that's what makes social media great. I'm a big social media advocate. I love talking to pro wrestlers. I love asking them questions. I loved that I, as a wrestling fan, was able to make another wrestling fan happy by talking to his favorite wrestler, whether it be Hulk Hogan.
Who?
Oh, man, I try to say that with a straight face.
Who?
Brother. He got to talk to Dale Wilkes, and that's his favorite wrestler. And Stan and I were able to make that happen. And it's weird, Dale, we're buddies now. I could call him Dale. So Dale, has been retweeting us for the past few days. Tweeting for the last few days, and this guy asked, "Oh, what kind of show do you got? Wrestling show? How do I listen to you?" And I said, call in if you want. Whatever. Call in and be respectful. I think this is like the third caller we've had in 5 years. Stan? The first two were robots.
Yeah, they were. Stan?
Do you remember that first call we had?
But it all goes back to being a wrestling fan and being respectful. And that's why, say whatever you want about me, how silly I act on social media, how silly I act on the radio show. At the end of the day, I'm just a wrestling fan like you. I respect the business. Not because I'm just an insider more than you know. I am the vast river of wrestling knowledge. I am the Swami known as SmarkRage. And speaking about SmarkRage, next week live, next Sunday night in Atlanta, Georgia at 4 p.m., Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment presents It's Real and It's Spectacular. I'm pretty stoked about
what kind of event is this?
It's pro wrestling, man.
Oh, okay.
You can get your tickets now. They will be over at 728 Spring Street Northwest, Atlanta, Georgia 30308. The event starts at 4 o'clock. Go to Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment Facebook page. Tickets are on sale. It tells you how to buy tickets. Otherwise, if you want to get tickets now, get them. The match lineup is Lynch Mob, Joey and Matt Lynch versus the Double Dragons, KT Hamill and Keith Hamill. There is also the Big Man Challenge. It continues next Sunday night at Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. The one and only Siler Cross has to defeat two men. Count them, two. Got two fingers up in case you guys don't know what two is, but you can't see it because we're not on video. So just
I see that. Put that down. That's not two fingers. That's one finger on each hand.
There you go. If if Solid Cross defeats both men in under 90 seconds, the one and only former guest, Iceberg, has to defeat 3 guys and set the time to beat the next set of opponents. Okay? And then in a triangle female match, we have got former guest the Priscilla Kelly versus Kiera Hogan versus Dementia DeRose. You got 3 crazy broads in a ring fighting each other's out. Somebody's hair is getting ripped out. And I'm going to love it, and I'm going to watch it. And Dementia, I know you're listening. You're going to get your spanking next Sunday. That's a promise. And the main event, one half of the Lethal Weapons, Adrian Armour, takes on the new up-and-comer. This kid, you know, Eddie, you're pretty knowledgeable in the Southeast. Owen Knight, do you know anything about this kid?
Not that much. Trying to do a little bit of homework, but unfortunately I don't have that much info on him right now.
You know, this kid is a new up-and-comer into the pro wrestling business. He's got a few wins under his belt. He's talking trash about my good time, long, close personal friend and Resistance Pro champion, Sugar Dunkerton. Now, Sugar Dunkerton wasn't in town last week or at the AWE because, you know, he was wrestling on another show. But this kid, Owen Knight, has been running his mouth. And here's what's going to happen. This kid's got no respect for the pro wrestling business, and he's going to wind up writing a check his little 20-something-year-old ass can catch. Also appearing on the card is the Scenic Invitational winner, my longtime close personal friend. You know, folks, I'm Jimmy Rave approved. How that happened, I have no friggin' idea. The one and only Jimmy Rave will be on the card. My buddy, my fishing buddy, Murder One, Marco Polo will be there. Luscious Laron. Stan, you may want to come and see Luscious. If you come up here, I'll get you a ticket. And many other stars. Yes.
Oh, buddy, I'm excited.
And another good friend of mine, Chip Day. We'll find out what's going on with Chip Day. Apparently, he hurt his knee last week in a tag match. Had to, you know, crawl his way to the back, and we'll know what the hell happened next Sunday night, August 16th, Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. It's real and it's spectacular. 728 Spring Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308.
Hey, Corey. What? Better yet, Stan, you set the number, and Corey and I will work with it from there. I want you to set the over-under for the number of Georgia indie workers that are going to be at the ROH show on August 29, Stan.
How many is in the state?
No. Set the over under.
We'll say 30.
I'll still take the over.
I would too.
I'm gonna say 45 and
2 hot dogs.
29 of them.
Okay, here's the fun part, kids.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
There's going to be 45 of them there. 29 of them are going to be in the back. The rest of them are going to be in the front taking selfies.
Okay. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I've got to teach Stan Grubb the fine art of setting the over-under. You have to make it a more realistic yet comedic number. You never go for a round number. You always go for a strange number. You can actually go ahead and say, he should have said 26 and a half.
What's the half? Was there going to be a midget wrestler showing up there too?
You never know that.
Great.
Hey, look.
So Doink and Dink will be backstage.
Look, if it was a
asshole, Doink is dead.
If it was like a decathletes convention, you could set the over under at a half number. I mean, remember, Jenner's still one or the other, and probably somewhere in the middle. So I mean, you can use a half if you have a women
under somewhere in the middle.
Ouch. There you go. If you have like a women's mixed martial arts convention, remember there's an intergender fighter who fights for the UFC as an intergender fighter, so you can set it at like 15 and a half. So the half
I
still
want to see
holds.
Ronda Rousey fight this one and beat this person down.
I don't want
I'll
to.
fight Ronda Rousey. Book
No,
it.
I won't.
Book it.
I don't want to see Ronda
Come on,
fight this
Ronda.
person. I don't.
I'll fight you all the way to the kitchen.
I don't
I'll
want
let
to.
you stop. I'll let her powder out to the kitchen.
I don't want to see Rousey fight this one because that individual has an unfair advantage, and I don't want to see this individual getting any more publicity than they already are because of the talk sheets.
I think Rousey would rough up just about half of the males on that roster.
Yeah, but I think
I don't
this
think they got a chance.
dude. This is a man who's going through intergender surgery to become packaged as a woman. I'm sorry, this individual has an unfair advantage. Look. Fair's fair. Let's play by the rules. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you identify as. Look, I'm sorry. I identify as a fat Italian bastard, plain and simple. And that'll be fixed in post.
Let's put him in a cage
Emphasis
with
on
Punk.
fat.
215.
Let's put him in a cage with Punk.
Yeah, I would pay to see Punk fight that person. I would pay to see Punk fight that person. I don't care if they identify as a woman, a man, a billy goat, or whatever.
Hey, if you want to make money with CM Punk in his debut fight, there you go.
So
and first off, you would have people angry. It would make him an instant heel, which is great.
Thank God.
So, I mean, it would just be, it's money.
Did y'all happen to see the CM Punk Q&A session before UFC 189 a month ago?
I saw,
You know what?
saw
I haven't
it,
had a chance.
and I wasn't impressed. It was CM Punk being himself.
Oh, that's right. I remember I was asking y'all about that on the day after it happened because I said I thought it was Corey trolling Punk there at the event.
Can we talk
Corey
about
doesn't care enough about them. Troll them.
Could we talk about the Young Bucks super kicking about a 6-year-old kid?
Say what?
Did you guys see that?
No.
No. Come on.
The Young Bucks was at a wrestling show last night. And apparently it was this kid's birthday. And this little kid shot himself off the ropes. And the Young Bucks super kicked about this 7 or 8-year-old.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm being serious.
Shot himself off the ropes.
Yeah, I'm gonna right now on Twitter. Go look at your Twitter, and I am gonna retweet this. Look at my very last retweet. Okay. Now, if you listen to this future in the week, you're not gonna know what the hell I'm talking about. So you got to look at it right now. Okay, this is not a great angle, and this is not an angle. It may be an angle, but not Kurt Angle. This little kid just got super kicked by the Young Bucks.
Oh well, no. This looks like one of those Make-A-Wish moments. I'm watching the clip now. Kid throwing kicks to both Young Bucks, goes into the ropes, boom, super kick, and sells it like a champ. This kid, that's amazing. That's, you know what? I love the Young Bucks. They're pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. Corey, you set it up way too different.
Yeah.
That was actually cool.
That was cool. But you want to know what? You know, speaking about next week in Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, to get back on that, I'm going to have my good buddies. You know, I got a lot of buddies, Stan. Don't you wish? Sometimes you wish you were my buddy. We got a local podcast going to join us.
No, I don't. But that's okay.
You know, you need all the friends you need. You need all the friends, buddy. Okay. In this hard times.
If you were in Virginia, you'd be my bestest buddy ever, because you could keep me out of jail.
Yeah, well, you know, got my good friends coming on next week. Friends of Wrestling. Got a podcast here live in Georgia. They're gonna be on with us to help me recap the Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment wrestling show. So it should be fun.
Maybe I'll have to have my agent negotiate my weekend off. Paul Heyman will call in for me.
I thought, you see, I'm not even going to go there.
No, I have to have my agent negotiate that, because if we're going to be giving out time to every Tom, Dick, and Harry to promote, their stuff.
No, they're not. They're going to come on and help me.
Help you talk AWE. I know.
They're going to help me talk AWE. You don't come to Atlanta, buddy. Listen, if you drive your monkey ass from, by God, West Virginia,
Whoa. Hulkamania's the new cracker. Here it comes.
I didn't mean. Whoa. Listen, and just for the record, he is not known as the Honky Tonk Man. He is now known as the Caucasian Tonk Man. Okay? If you bring her.
The man who tried to trademark what didn't belong to him.
If you come to Atlanta next Sunday, I will pay your way to get into the Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. I'll even get your front row seat. If you want, I'll get you a Jimmy Rave t-shirt.
First off, I'm sure Jimmy would give me a t-shirt, and he'd probably give me the right size, is what I'm saying.
Well,
Secondly,
just because wrestlers give me medium t-shirts, you don't have to throw that up, Dick.
Take it home.
This just in before we wrap up the show from ctvnews.ca, Canadian website. WWE has banned the fan who threw a replica Money in the Bank briefcase that struck Roman Reigns on Saturday. The Canadian press reports that no one was hurt and no charges were filed, but the fan has been banned from attending any WWE shows in the future.
Thank God.
You can read more at ctvnews.ca. Good. Justice served. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Thank you, Jesse James.
You're welcome. What a night has been. A star-spangled interview. Masked Madness. We talked to the Patriot tonight, Del Wilkes. Fabulous interview. Definitely a highlight of WrestleRage history. And I'm happy to say that we were the ones to do it. And I can't wait to get him back on the air so we can talk more about his career, because Eddie said it best. We really did a gloss over of the career. Really didn't get into the brass tacks of what we wanted to go through. So, wow. Can't wait to get him back on the air. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at WrestleRageBR. That's WrestleRage Beyond Ringside BR. Beyond Ringside.
Oh, is that what that meant?
Well, it doesn't stand for Battle Royal.
Okay.
You can follow SmarkRage at SmarkRage, all caps. If you type it in lowercase, it's going to come back, user not found. We're on the Facebook at WrestleRage Radio presents the Wrestling Manifesto. And that's what we do here. The Wrestling Manifesto presents to you how to be a wrestling fan in 10 easy steps.
Step one.
I'm Stan Grubb. Find me on Twitter at Stan Grubb. Fast Eddie Layne on Twitter, of course, at Beyond Ringside, at Fast Eddie Layne. Tune in tomorrow night, by the way, for Raw is Amell. Steve Amell is set to make his guest appearance, WWE Face Off with Stardust.
Who the hell is Stephen Amell?
Arrow.
And why do I care?
His name is Oliver Queen.
Who? And I'm not ribbing, I swear. I'm being legit. Who the hell is he?
Stephen Amell is the star of the CW television series, one of the hottest shows going, Arrow. He plays Oliver Queen, the lead character, Arrow.
Okay.
And you better recognize.
So why is he involved in pro wrestling?
Oh, you suck. For the ignorance that is SmarkRage.
Well, 5 years running, brother.
I don't know if y'all caught it or not, but we had a major death in the world of sports, and I just now saw it a second ago. I'm assuming it was probably earlier today, and the pro football legend Frank Gifford passed away. Oh boy, that's another great one who has left us this year.
You know, I saw
rest
that.
In peace, Frank Gifford.
I saw that earlier. May he rest in peace. He was married to Kathy Lee Gifford.
He's away from her flapping her yappies in peace right now.
You know.
Anyway.
You know, the guy, he should rest in peace. He was 83 years old.
Yep.
He lived a great life. It's sad when somebody that age passes away, but he lived a great life.
Yes.
So instead of being sad, memorialize the guy.
Also, speaking of deaths, I heard the Fantastic Four absolutely flopped this weekend. Thank you. I now have restored faith in a lot of people who go see movies right now.
Well,
Hey, the beginning and the end of the Marvel Universe is at hand. DCU is on the rise.
Loving it.
Me too.
And a piece of advice: if you go see the movie Vacation, don't see it. I didn't see it. I'm not going to see it. If you want to go see it, why don't you come meet me in the movie theater parking lot? give me $20, I will kick you in your nuts or kick you in your vagina, and you will save $20. You would have made $20. I made $20.
Dude,
you made $20.
Real quick, and one more quick story. I don't know if you've seen this one or not.
We're going home.
We are going home. This is when you talked about making money and playing video games. Did y'all catch the story about the 5 kids who competed for the team called the Evil Geniuses against the team from China? And it was in the, Defense of the Ancients video game tournament. There were somewhere, the Evil Geniuses, Team USA, defeated, I can't remember the initial, CDCC or something like that was the team from China. They took home somewhere in the neighborhood of $6.6 million for winning this game.
God bless America. Cue the patriotic music. Cue the Stars and Stripes.
Fireworks. 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 Use your imagination, people. It's radio. Okay.
Fast Eddie Layne, last call, sir.
Folks, it's been a crazy week. It's been a great weekend in more ways than one. And we actually had a chance to go out shooting my gun for the first time since I bought the damn thing a few months ago. And you know something? I enjoyed the mortal hell out of it. I will tell you the truth. It's the first time I'd fired a full-scale handgun in a few years. And it felt good to get back into the groove. I was a little bit nervous the first time I put 10 through. Second round, things started coming.
You had 10. You mean it was 2 inches 8 times?
Even if I have 2 inches,
okay.
Hey, if I have 10 and you have 2, if I have 2 and you have 10, my 2 inches outrank your 10 millimeters any day of the week.
Oh, and
Folks,
with that,
Eddie Layne, this is Del Wilkes. We'll see you next week. Feel the rage.
Rage.